How's it going, everybody? Hope you're having a good evening out there. Today we're going to do a 6-month update on my camera that I use for my channel, which is the GoPro Hero 4. So let's see what we got. Alright, it's Friday night. It's nearly 9 o'clock. I'm about to go do a back workout. But I figured before I work out, I want to hit this video because I've been thinking about this for a while and I keep putting it off. So I want to do it today. I'm going to do it in the form of a pro and con for the camera. Before we even get started, this camera is the one I'm actually recording on right now. I use it for everything to do with this channel. It's literally me and this camera for everything. There's no fancy high-tech stuff. Except the 2 vehicles that are on the channel, they're cool. But you know, I develop obviously some pros and cons throughout the way, but overall, before we even start that, yes, I love this camera. Buy this camera. They just came out with the Hero 5, I believe, which I'm not even sure what it has versus this one, but this one really is a total package. But I figured we'd go over some, you know, things I love about it and some things that need attention. And if it's on the 5, feel free to comment me and let me know. So let's get started with some pros. To start off the pros, I will say the greatest thing about it that people always tell me, because I've never had a GoPro before. My father had one years ago when they first came out, and that one, just knowing a little bit about that one that I do versus the one that's in front of me right now, night and day difference. This one is obviously much better. But the one thing people always bring up to me is this one has the touch screen on the back of it, and the ones before this didn't have the screen. So number one is definitely the touch screen. It does make it a lot easier to do everything, pretty obviously. I use my phone because you can Bluetooth, which is actually my number 2 Pro. You can Bluetooth it right to your phone or whatever, and you can control the camera completely that way. I know you can do that on the older ones, but you know, not only do you have the Bluetooth, but you know, you have the screen on the back of the camera. So going forward, I'm guessing all of the GoPros will have that, which is a huge help for, you know, when you're filming and doing these videos and things like that. Another pro is the GoPro app, which is just absolutely awesome. It is very, very, very easy to use. I highly, you know, recommend you get the app if you have the camera. It has everything you need on it to set up your videos, to transfer over to when you're doing your YouTube uploads and things like that. So a very good thing. Also with that app and with the camera, they're both user-friendly completely. When I bought this camera or got this camera, I had no idea what I was doing. Took the camera out, downloaded the app, and just kind of worked my way through it. And since then, I've, you know, learned quite a bit about the camera and everything. So, you know, it's not one of those things you pick up and it's tough to use. So definitely, if you're thinking about starting a channel, if you're thinking about going on trips with a camera, you know, it's real easy, and you learn by messing up with some of the things, you know, with your angles and all that, but it's definitely worth it. Last thing on the pros list, it has all kinds of mounts for absolutely everything. Head mount, chest mount, bicycle handle mount, every mount for cars. But, you know, note and disclaimer, if you watch my channel, if you do stick it to the outside of your car, I suggest you get one of those 3 suction cup mounts, because when I did it, it fell off the car, the side of the car, with the 1 suction cup because the suction cup failed. It fell on the road and then it was run over by another car. And if you haven't seen that video, go down the list of my videos because it's definitely on there. It's pretty funny looking too. By the way, the camera survived, and that is still the camera I'm on now, but the mount that it was attached to completely destroyed. So yeah, that's all my pros for the camera. Just, you know, a quick overview of pros. One thing before I go any further, just so we all know, I actually got this camera on eBay brand new, unopened box and everything, for $280. I think it was $280, right around $280. But you know, it was a great deal because I think they were going for $400 when they were new. And I also bought mounts, like a $30 bag of all sorts of mounts. That wasn't a GoPro. It wasn't the GoPro brand, but the mount that actually failed was a GoPro mount. So yeah, if you're gonna get that mount for the outside of the car, just make sure you got it on there good, or whatever you gotta do. So let's move on to the cons. So I don't know about you, but for me, I feel like you learn way more about an item or a car or whatever you're doing in the cons list. For me, I always learn more about what people don't like in something than what people like in something. So let's start right off the bat. The number one con for this camera is the price of the GoPro brand mounts and all the extras. You know, you spend all the money on the camera, it comes pretty bare bones, but then you got to go buy all your mounts and things like that. And the SD card, it doesn't come with an SD card. I wish I knew that ahead of time, because I actually got the camera, opened it up, ready to go, and I couldn't use it because there was no SD card. So I had to go buy one of them. So yeah, the mounts and things, they're really expensive. So that's definitely a con. You know, you wish they'd be a little cheaper so, you know, you could get more to do more, but I guess that's the way it is. In operating the camera, one of my cons is the screen will go blank when you're in the middle of recording. I guess from, you know, not touching it, you know, while you're recording, and it just goes black. And all you have to do is tap your finger on it. But when you're focused on what you're recording, you know, it's hard to keep, you know, if you see, I'll put it to you this way, if you're watching a video of somebody and you see them pause for a sec, it's probably because they're trying to hit the screen back on. So what I do now to avoid the screen altogether is when I'm filming and holding the camera, shooting something, I carry my phone right next to me, because that will show you the screen of what you're shooting. So the screen goes blank while recording. I don't know if there's a way to make the screen stay on, and if you know, please let me know. That would be huge. Another con, battery life. The battery burns out so quick on this thing. There might be extended life battery out there, I don't even know. But this battery is really quick to burn out. That is probably my number one thing of all of it, is battery life. Every time I use this for any kind of video, like this video right here, I'm probably going to have to go and charge this thing up again. It still has enough battery to get through another video, but I don't want to risk it depending on how long a next video would be, or if I'm turning it on and off as far as recording. So battery life is probably the number one issue I have with the camera. Also, kind of what I brought up before, mount quality. Some of the mounts are just, you know, pretty cheap. They don't hold well. Some of the suction cups don't, you know, sit right, things like that. And that's why you got to be careful when you're filming stuff on the outside of cars or sitting on top of something that could fall off of and break, because, you know, the camera took a beating when it was hit by the car when it fell off my truck, but you know, it survived, but the mount was totally destroyed. Obviously a car is going to destroy a mount, so the camera, you know, can take a little bit of a beating, but you know, you don't want that, because you spend this much money on the camera, you want to make sure it'll last. So what I suggest is, you know, go, instead of buying all these mounts online, go in like to a store and check them out and see if they're actually, you know, worth it. There are some brands that aren't GoPro that are more expensive that have some really good mounts for this camera. But if you just go online and buy like the cheaper thing, like that $30 bag I bought of all the mounts, some of them are great, but then like it came with like a selfie stick. So if you're trying to do that, and it's just very cheap, it won't even hold the camera upright, things like that. And obviously you don't want it to fall off. But you know, that's my con list. So those are my pros and cons for the camera after 6 months of owning it. In closing, I absolutely love the camera. It is the reason this channel obviously exists. There are other cameras out there. There's other brands. People always talk about Canon. I always, you know, I'm not a camera guy or anything like that. So obviously the first thing I'm going to do is go for the GoPro. And honestly, I don't see myself not using a GoPro. With the success I've had with this camera, I'm probably going to add a GoPro 5 to the channel. That'll be like the next thing we get for the channel. So, you know, yes, I strongly suggest you buy one if you want to get started. You know, even the cons, none of them are extremely crazy that would push you away. The battery life thing is probably number one, but as long as you charge it every time you're done using it, you'll be, you know, in good shape with it. But please, you know, as far as cameras, if you're a camera person watching this and there's something I missed or something you think should have been on the list or whatever, feel free to comment below, or you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at TundraDude34. I thank you for watching, and have a great weekend.